Hey everyone, welcome back to the lab. In this video, we're going to be talking about Fallout 4 and specifically how to create a simple, infinite, purified water farm. And of course, why that's useful. So Fallout 4 is a game about survival in a barren wasteland. Finding reliable sources of key resources is crucial for staying alive and avoiding frequent resource grinds. Now, unsurprisingly, purified water is a crucial resource for post-apocalyptic humanity and this irradiated wasteland. And in Fallout 4 specifically, this is both a decent healing item and a pretty good cash crop with a value to weight ratio of 40. So in this post, we'll go over a simple method for farming infinite purified water, which provides an infinite supply of both healing items and money, or as they call it, bottle caps. Okay, so first off, farming purified water. We're going to be farming this because it's a pretty good resource for several reasons. The first one being that it's really easy to farm. We really only need 1 to 2 base items, and there's no settler requirements. The base building in Fallout 4 is a little bit finicky, so setting up a real production line is actually kind of hard, and so we really want to focus on something very easy to set up so we don't have to deal with any of the finickiness of it. The next reason is that this scales pretty well. We can get to 10 plus generators pretty quickly, which will lead to a lot of surplus water, and therefore this is a good resource farm, as opposed to if you're doing something that requires settlers, you can really only get to a certain amount of those. And the more settlers you have, usually the more problems you actually have in your base. And so this is a good one for that reason as well. It'll scale with you kind of throughout your playthrough. And then the last reason is that this is pretty valuable. You know, there's a lot of things you can farm and grow in this game, but purified water is especially good because it has a pretty good value to weight ratio of 40, which in most cases is better than a lot of even rarer items. And it doubles as a pretty good healing item. So it's useful both for being a cash crop, but also for keeping your character supplied as you play. All right, so how do we farm purified water? So there's going to be 4 settlement buildings that produce purified water. We've got our water pump, which produces 3 water per day. Our water pump powered, which creates 10 water per day and requires 4 electricity. Our water purifier, 10 water per day, requires 3 electricity, which is worth a small generator. And our industrial water purifier, which creates 40 water per day, but needs 5 electricity and a medium generator. So here I am in my game, and you can get to this by opening up your workshop menu. And let me exit out. So here's like the main menu, and you can go over here to resources, resources water, and then you'll have a few options here. So we have this water pump here. We can see that it produces 3 water and is relatively easy to produce. And so early game, this is probably what you're gonna wanna go with. And you can see I have a whole line of these here. It does not require a settler, which is really great. So this is probably what you'll start off with. Now, the other ones that are going to create more, here's the powered water pump, the water purifier, and here the industrial water purifier. These are going to produce a lot more water, here 10 and 40, but you can see that they require a lot more resources, and these are pretty uncommon scrap. And so what I would recommend is really just starting off with these water pumps and collecting scrap as you go. And then as you finally collect enough to start upgrading to these, where when you have enough resources to build them, but also enough resources to build the electricity generators they have. Final thing about this is I would highly recommend to not use this one. This one is just a little bit too expensive. It requires a non-useful amount of electricity. 4 is like a little bit more than a small generator and a little bit less than a medium generator. So probably just stick with the water purifiers and early game the water pump. Other small things to note about this is the water pump can only be placed on dirt, and it's a little bit finicky where it can be placed, but you can see that this can kind of be put anywhere. I have some over here, I have some over here. And then I'll run over to the water over here to show you that the water purifiers themselves must be placed in a body of water. This is mostly fine. A lot of settlements exist that have bodies of water that are suitable for these purifiers, but just not all of them do. But here I am in, the beginning settlement here, Sanctuary, and it does have a pretty good body of water that is inside of the build zone. And so this will work out here. So it's pretty easy to get set up. And basically, each small water purifier just gets connected to a small generator, and that's the equal amount of electricity. And each of these big ones gets connected to a medium generator, which produces 5. So very, very easy to set up. So some other things to note is that your settlement's going to produce water every day-ish, and about 75% of the surplus water will be stored in the workshop inventory. These numbers are not exact. It depends on several different things. You know, the base building mechanics are just a little bit finicky, but that's generally what it's going to be. And then the surplus is generally calculated as your water produced minus your settlement needs. And so you can see this again by going to your workshop menu, and you can see up at the top the amount of water you have. Here I have 180 produced, and then we see that the people, there's 5, and so theoretically they need like 5 water every day. So theoretically my surplus would be 175, but then we take like 75% of that, which is, I don't know, somewhere around like 115, 120 or something like that. And so that's how much we would expect to get. And so now if I take you back to my workshop, we can actually see like how much is produced. And so you can come over here by going to the workshop, we'll click X for transfer, and then we'll move over to the aid, and we see that I get about 106. And so I can take this, put it into my inventory, and now I can use it as healing items, or I can use it, to go sell to people. Now, one thing that is important to note is that there's a relatively low cap on workshop producible inventory. And so this means that once the workshop stores enough to reach that cap, it will stop producing that resource entirely. And so this is another one of those like finicky things about the base building in Fallout 4. And so what this means is that you're going to need to regularly take the produced water or whatever, production items you have out of the inventory so that the workshop knows that, oh, I can go produce these things again, so that it keeps actually generating this stuff. And so next we're going to talk about a few ways to efficiently work around these constraints so that this farm keeps producing. Okay, so tips for effectively farming infinite purified water. So we now know how to farm infinite purified water and where to get it, but there's a few more things to keep in mind to keep your farm running efficiently. And so the first is that you'll want to build water generation as you go. So water generation systems can be expensive. We saw all those different components that are necessary. Some of them are pretty uncommon, so you'll kind of have to go searching a lot to find enough to build them. But it's usually not necessary to try to build this all in one go. And instead, I think it's better to just gather the scrap as you play the game. Start off with those simple pumps that don't require much uncommon things. And then as you gather enough to actually graduate to the purified water generators, then you go build them kind of as you return to your settlement. This might seem slow, but honestly, you'll have way more water than you know what to deal with, and way more water than your workshop can store faster than you think. The next step is to regularly take the generated water. So water generation will stop once the workshop reaches the relatively low resource cap, and this means you'll want to regularly take any generated water so it will continue producing. And so my general system for this is like whenever I come back to my settlement, here we have the weapons workbench, here we have the armor workbench, power armor station. So whenever I come back to like repair my armor or upgrade my weapons or anything, I'll just come over here, check what's in the workbench, and take any of the generated water. And this means that I'm getting a regular flow of a lot of that water for use both as my game, but also as things to sell. And so it's not like perfect, but it at least gives me a lot of the benefits of the water generation factory. And finally, keep some water on you and sell the rest. So purified water is a great healing item, made even better now that you have an infinite supply. And so I like to keep around 20 on my character at any one time for use as an overtime heal. The stim packs are still generally better in combat because they heal faster, but especially if you're out of combat and you're just slowly need to get up to 100, purified water is excellent for that. And as you saw, I'm producing over 100 per day. And so this will often leave me with just over 100 extras. And this is a great thing to go bring to a vendor and sell. You can usually get about 700 caps. And so usually, depending on your charisma, it's about 7 per water when you're selling. And so this quickly allows you to get enough caps to, buy whatever you want. A fusion core is about 500. So this is a great way to transfer this into those rare items that you really only can get from vendors. Next. So I've been thoroughly enjoying returning to the Wasteland in Fallout 4. The base building mechanics are lacking compared to games focused on that, but they provide some interesting side mechanics and possibilities to play around with. So question for you is, what's your favorite kind of base and factory to build in Fallout 4? What kind of things are you farming? Love to find different ways that people exploit base building mechanics to kind of make their game more fun. If you like this post, you might also like Kenshi, early game automated money farm, making about 4K per game day. Or if you're playing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, this Zonai vehicle solos Lynels. And finally, you might be interested in 3 software engineering skills you can learn by playing Mini Metro. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.